Today we're going to multiply decimals by whole numbers. This is a 6th grade standard, number sense 3, fluently add, subtract, multiply, and divide multi-digit decimals using the standard algorithm for each operation. Make sure that you have your notes and you are taking notes along with the video. So how do you estimate when multiplying by decimals? So this is your question on the left-hand side, and you're going to fill in the answers on the right-hand side. Okay, so we have 4 times 83 hundredths. Step 1 is to round your decimals to a whole number. So I know that 83 hundredths is closer to 1 than it is 0. And think of money. 83 cents is closer to having $1 than it is to having nothing. So I'm going to round that 83 hundredths to 1, and I'm going to have my whole numbers 4 times 1. Step 2 is to multiply your whole numbers. 4 times 1 equals 4. So 4 times 83 hundredths is about 4. So this little squiggly right here actually should have another line under it, and that means about 4. So how do you know when to place your decimals when multiplying decimals? You always place the number with the most digits on top. Okay, so we're going to have 4 times 83 hundredths. This one right here only has 1 digit. This one has 1, 2, 3 digits. So 83 hundredths is going to go on top, and 4 is going to go on the bottom. Line the numbers to the right. Do not line up your decimals. So when we added, we pulled our decimals and we lined them up. But when we multiply all of our numbers right here to the right. So we want to line up our numbers, not the decimals. And then we're going to move our decimals out. So I'm going to come up here, and it's 83 hundredths, and the hundredths place means I have to move it 2 places. So that's my tenths, that's my hundredths. So I'm going to write a 2. My whole number, I don't have any decimals, so I don't move it out at all. I'm going to add that up, and I have 2, and I'm going to use it later because I'm going to have to put those decimals back in. My next step is just to multiply, as usual, just like if it's a whole number. So I know I start over here in the ones place. 4 times 3 is 12. I'm going to regroup a 1. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1 is 33. And 4 times 0 is 0. So it looks like I have 332. But I have to remember to move my decimal back in. Okay, so I moved it out 2 places because it was in the hundredths. So I have to put it back in 2 places. 1, 2. I'm not bringing it down. Even though it looks like I am, I'm not. I moved it out in the hundredths, so I have to make sure my answer is back in the hundredths. So my answer is actually 3 and 32 hundredths, which would make sense. This is less than 1, so when I multiply it by 4, my answer has to be less than that 4 that I started with. Okay, so let's try some. So we have the problem. So 3 times 14.2. We have to do an estimation. So I'm going to take 14.2 and I'm going to say that it's about 14. Remember the squiggly lines means about. And 3 is actually equal to 3. If I multiply that, 3 times 4 is 12. I'm going to regroup. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. 42. So I'm going to say that 3 times 14.2 is going to be about 42. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the algorithm. Remember that the one with the most digits goes on top. 14.2 has 3 digits. So it's going to go on top times 3. Now 3 is a whole number. So if I was adding, I'd put it right under the 4. But when I multiply, I want to line my numbers up. I'm not worried about the decimals. I'm going to move my decimal out. So I have 1 here, which would make sense. It's a tenth. So I have to move it 1 place value. I don't have any here. So I know when I move my decimal back in, I'm going to move it in 1 place value, so I'm going to have a tenth in my answer. 3 times 2 equals 6. 4 times 3 equals 12. I'm going to regroup. 3 times 3 is 1 plus 1 is 42. I moved it out 1, so I move it in 1. And I do have a tenth now in my answer. So it's 42 and 6/10. Okay, my next problem, I have 4 times 95 hundredths. Now I'm multiplying 4 times a number less than 1. I know that 4 times 1 is going to give me 4, so my answer is going to be less than 4. I'm going to do my estimations. 4 does equal 4, and 95 hundredths equals about 1. 4 times 1 equals 4, so my answer is going to be about 4, which would make sense because I said it's going to be less than 4. 95 hundredths has more digits in it, so it's going to go on top. Times 4, I'm not lining up my whole numbers. I'm lining my numbers to the right. I'm going to move out 2 place values, which makes sense because tenths, hundredths. None down here, so I'm going to put it back in 2 place values, so I'm going to have a hundredth in my answer. 4 times 5 is 20. I'm going to regroup. 4 times 9 is 36. 7, 38. 4 times 0 is 0. I move it back in 2 places, so my answer is 3 and 80 hundredths, which is less than 4, which is what we said it would be. Okay, my next problem. I have 2 times 18 thousandths, so that's really small. So I have 2 does equal 2, and I have 18 thousandths is closer to 0 than 1. 2 times 0 actually equals 0, so I know my answer is going to be less than 1. 18 thousandths has more digits in it, times 2. Now 2 is a whole number, so really if I was adding, it would be over here, but I'm multiplying, so it's all going to go to the right. I'm going to move out 1, 2, 3 place values. I have none there, so I'm going to move in 3 place values, which means that my answer is going to have a thousandths in it. 2 times 8 is 16. I'm going to regroup. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 plus 0 is 0, and 2 plus 0 is 0. I moved out 3, so I'm going to move in 3, and my answer is 36 thousandths, which makes sense because we knew that it had to have 3 placeholders in it. Okay, we're going to do another one. I have 4 times 12 thousandths. I'm going to do my estimate. 4 does equal 4. And 12 thousandths is less than 0, so it's about 0. So my answer is going to be about 0. 0, so 12 thousandths has more digits in it than 4. I'm going to line up my numbers. Remember, not my whole numbers, not the decimals, but the numbers because it's multiplication. I'm going to move out my decimal 3 on the top, 0 on the bottom. So my answer is going to have a thousandth in it. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. I have to move it in 3. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 48 thousandths. Okay, I believe this is our last one. So I have 2 and 7/10 times 6. When I estimate, 2 and 7/10 is about 3. 6 does equal 6, so my answer is going to be about 18. 2.7 has more digits. It has 2 digits. Now, if I was adding, my 6 would be directly under this 2 because my 6 is a whole number. But I'm multiplying, so I'm lining my numbers up, not my decimals. I move out 1, so my answer is going to have a tenth in it because I'm going to move it back in 1 place. 7 times 6 is 42. Regroup. 12 plus 4 is 16. I moved 1 out, so I'm going to move 1 in. So my answer is 16.2, and we said it would be about 18, so it's pretty close. Okay, you have 2, I believe, that you need to try on your notes section. Make sure your notes are in your notebook and they are in Avid formation, and then fill out your Google form.